I live in a split-level house with my older sister, a place built so two people can share one structure while living completely separate lives. Two kitchens, two living spaces, two routines that rarely overlap. Most nights she stays at her boyfriend's place about 30 minutes away, so being alone in the house is normal for me, or at least it should be. That night I had fallen asleep on the couch after watching a horror movie, the television casting a pale flickering light across the open living space behind me, a layout that always makes you feel like something could be standing just outside your vision. Sometime after 1 in the morning, I woke up suddenly, not from a dream, not from a sound I recognized, just a sharp awareness that something had changed. And then I heard my sister's voice from downstairs. It wasn't faint. It wasn't distant. It sounded like she was inside the house calling up toward me, and although I couldn't understand the words at first, I was certain it was her voice. Still half asleep, I walked into the hallway, turned on the light, and made my way down the stairs, calling back to her, asking what she needed. The house was completely dark, completely still. I reached the lower level, ran my hand along the wall, found the kitchen switch, and the light came on slowly, filling the room with a dull yellow glow. No one was there. I checked her bedroom, her living room, even the bathroom, and when I called her name one last time, something struck the floor behind me inside her bedroom, a sharp, solid impact. I had just looked in that room seconds earlier. I didn't investigate. I went upstairs, locked my door, called her phone several times, and eventually fell asleep without realizing when. The next morning she texted me asking why I had called her in the middle of the night. She had never come home. Nothing in her room had fallen. And what stays with me most is not the sound, but how clearly I heard my name being called. I was 14 when I spent a night alone while my mother worked an overnight hospital shift. And sometime after midnight, I heard the slow scraping sound of a chair moving outside on the backyard deck beneath my bedroom window. When I looked down, I saw someone sitting there. At first, I thought it was a friend playing a prank, but when the figure slowly lifted his head and stared directly into my window, I realized I had never seen that face before. I turned off my lights and sat in silence, barely breathing, convinced that if I didn't move, he might assume the room was empty. 5 minutes passed. When I finally looked again, he was still there, perfectly still, watching. I gathered the courage to ask what he wanted. His shoulders began to shake as if he were laughing, but no sound came out at first, only a strained, wheezing whistle that seemed to stretch the silence around him. Then the back door handle began to move. Then the front door. He tested both entrances quietly, patiently, before eventually stopping. I never saw his face clearly, but I remember the stillness, the silence, and the way he never stopped looking up. When I was 10 years old, my parents rushed to the hospital late one night after my older brother was injured, leaving me alone in the house for the first time. Hours later, I heard the front door open. I assumed they had returned, but no voices followed, no footsteps on the stairs, no familiar movement. From the upstairs railing, I looked down into the dark living room and saw 3 tall figures standing silently in the center of the house. They were not my family. I returned to my bedroom slowly, quietly, and hid inside my closet behind boxes and hanging clothes just moments before my bedroom door opened. Footsteps entered. Someone touched my bed. Then the steps moved toward the closet. The door opened. Whoever stood there remained motionless for several long seconds, long enough for me to feel the air change. Then the door closed again. The footsteps left. Nothing was taken from my room that night, but I still don't know if the person looking into that closet saw me and chose to leave, or never saw me at all. When my parents left town for a week, I spent one evening sitting alone on the back deck listening to music while the woods behind the house settled into night. Between songs, I heard a man's voice calling from somewhere beyond the trees. At first it was distant, uncertain, easy to ignore. Then it came again, clearer this time. "Hey, over here." I stood up and walked a few steps toward the tree line, unsure why I felt compelled to respond. The voice answered immediately. "I see you." Something about the certainty in his tone made me stop where I was. I backed away slowly, returned to the house, locked the door, and stood there listening. A few moments later, I heard splashing from the backyard pool. Then came a firm knock on the window beside me. Through the blinds, a shape stood motionless, and a voice whispered, "I see you." One afternoon, while I was alone at home, I saw a woman standing at an upstairs window from outside the house. When I went inside to search, she was nowhere to be found. I checked every room, every closet, every corner, and eventually convinced myself I had imagined it. That night, as I lay in bed trying to fall asleep, I heard movement beneath me. Slow, shifting fabric. A faint breath. I turned my head, and a woman crawled out from under my bed and stood up beside me. I don't remember deciding to fight. I only remember screaming and tackling her to the floor as she clawed at my arms. The police later identified her as someone who had broken into homes before. They never explained how long she had been inside mine. Since then, I never let any part of my bed hang low enough to hide what might be underneath.